I've worked a lot of boring night shifts in my life, but nothing ever compared to the gas station job I had 2 summers ago. It was one of those tiny 24-hour stations off the interstate, the kind of place truckers stop at for coffee and locals use as a landmark when giving directions. Everyone around here called it Roger's Fuel, but honestly, it was barely more than a shack with pumps. One cashier, one security camera, one flickering light outside that attracted every bug in a 5-mile radius. I worked alone 5 nights a week, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It was quiet most nights. After midnight, I might get a trucker or two, maybe a sheriff's deputy coming by for a drink. Nothing exciting. That's how I liked it. At least until the summer, the face started showing up. The first time it happened, it was about 3:15 in the morning. I remember the exact time because I'd just written it on the nightly log sheet. It was one of those humid nights when even the air feels heavy, and all I wanted was my shift to end. I was restocking the cooler when I caught something out of the corner of my eye, movement in the window near pump 3. At first I thought it was just a reflection, maybe my own. But when I looked closer, I saw what looked like a face pressed against the glass. Pale, blurry, almost like someone breathing against it. I froze. The window's right next to the register, and from where I was standing, I could only see the top half of the face. Eyes, nose, maybe a mouth. It was there for maybe 2 seconds before it was gone. I went outside, flashlight in hand. Nothing. No footprints, no movement, no car. Just the sound of cicadas and the buzzing fluorescent light above the pumps. I figured maybe I was seeing things. Night shifts do that to you. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing little things. The motion sensor by the door would beep randomly, even when no one was there. Sometimes I'd hear the chime that goes off when someone enters, but the door never opened. Once, a display of chips near the front counter just fell over. No wind, no one near it. I checked the security cam footage, and right before it happened, you could see a faint shape in the reflection of the front glass, standing still. That's when I started to get nervous. I told my manager about it, half expecting her to laugh it off. But instead, she gave me this odd look and said, "You're not the first one to see something here." She said a guy who worked the same shift before me quit after 2 months. Said someone kept knocking on the glass at night, but when he looked outside, nobody was there. She brushed it off as some drifter or prankster, but I could tell she didn't really believe that herself. About a week later, things escalated. It was another quiet night, no cars for almost an hour. I was sitting behind the counter scrolling on my phone when I heard a tap. Then another, 3 slow taps against the front window. I looked up. There it was again. The face. This time, it wasn't blurry. It was clear enough that I could see the eyes staring directly at me. They were wrong. Too wide, too pale. The mouth was open slightly, like it was whispering something I couldn't hear. I jumped up, knocking my chair over, and ran outside. No one. Not a single footprint in the dirt. The night was dead quiet. Not even the bugs were chirping anymore. When I came back inside, I swear the air felt heavier. Colder somehow. I grabbed my phone and took a picture of the window. Nothing unusual showed up, but on the security camera playback, I saw something that made my stomach drop. In the few seconds before I ran outside, the camera showed the faint outline of a person, but they weren't standing outside. They were behind me. I stopped checking the cameras after that. For a while, I thought about quitting, but I really needed the money, so I started taking precautions, keeping a flashlight and my phone on me at all times, locking the doors after midnight, even though we were supposed to stay open. The weird thing was, it never happened when customers were around, only when I was alone, and always between 3 and 4 a.m. One night, an older truck driver came in to pay for gas. He noticed how jumpy I was and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost, kid." I laughed it off and told him about the weird stuff happening. He got real quiet and said, "You know, there was an accident here a few years back. Drunk driver hit the old gas station attendant. Guy died right out there by pump 3. I'd never heard that before. My manager never mentioned it. When the driver left, I went out to look. The concrete around pump 3 had a faint dark stain, like an old spill that never came out. I'd seen it 100 times but never thought about it. That night, around 3:40, I saw the face again. But this time, it was inside the station. It was reflected in the cooler door behind me, clear as day. And it was smiling. The next morning, I told my manager I was done. She didn't argue. She just said she understood. A week later, I got a call from a buddy who still worked there. He said the new night guy quit after just 2 shifts. Claimed he kept hearing someone tapping on the glass from the inside. I've never gone back since, but sometimes when I drive past that station late at night, I still glance toward Pump 3. And every single time, I swear I see someone standing there just outside the glow of the light, waiting. I've worked at a few hospitals over the years, but the one that sticks in my memory the most wasn't because of the patients, or the doctors, or even the workload. It was because of what happened during one night shift in the basement of Maplewood Regional, the oldest hospital in our district. Back then, I was part of the maintenance team. My job wasn't glamorous. I fixed leaks, changed lights, and made sure the electrical systems kept running. The place was ancient, built in the 1950s, and every floor had that faint, sterile smell of bleach mixed with something older, like dust and time. The hospital had 5 floors plus a basement that most people avoided unless they absolutely had to go down there. That's where the boiler room, old storage, and backup generators were. Even some of the doctors admitted they hated going down there alone. The lights flickered, and half the corridors were filled with boxes of old equipment. For the first few months, I never had a reason to go there at night, until that one stormy evening in late June. The head of maintenance called in sick, so I was covering the overnight shift alone. It had been raining all day, and by midnight the wind was howling hard enough to rattle the windows. I was in the break room when the power suddenly flickered, and the emergency lights kicked in. A second later, the radio on my belt crackled to life. "Maintenance, this is the front desk. We just lost power on half of the ICU floor. Can you check the backup generator?" That meant going down to the basement. I grabbed my flashlight, tools, and keycard and made my way to the service elevator. I remember feeling uneasy even before I got in. The lights were dim and the air felt colder than usual. When the elevator doors opened to the basement, I instantly noticed the smell. Damp concrete and something metallic like rust or old blood. The basement was quieter than anywhere else in the hospital. You could hear the hum of the generators, the slow drip of water leaking from pipes, and your own footsteps echoing off the walls. I started walking toward the generator room. The flashlight beam bounced across the peeling paint and faded safety signs. I passed by an old storage area filled with broken wheelchairs and hospital beds stacked in rows. That's when I thought I heard something. A faint sound, like someone calling my name. It was soft, barely above a whisper. "Eli." I froze. My name's Elijah, but nobody at work called me that. At first I thought it was the radio. I turned the volume down. Nothing. Then I heard it again, closer this time. "Eli." I turned my flashlight toward the sound, but there was nothing there, just shadows and boxes. I told myself it was just the pipes or the ventilation. Old buildings make all kinds of noises. But as I kept walking, the voice followed. Every few steps I'd hear it again, faint, distant, but always using that same soft tone, like someone trying to get my attention without waking anyone up. When I finally reached the generator room, I saw that one of the main breakers had tripped. Easy fix. I reset it, and the hum of the backup power returned. The hospital lights flickered back to normal through the small glass window in the door. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding and started to pack up my tools. Then I heard a knock behind me. 3 slow knocks on the metal door. "Hello?" I called out. "Someone there?" No answer. I opened the door and my flashlight swept over the empty hallway. No one in sight. But the strangest thing, the air felt warmer, like someone had just been standing there. I was done with the basement after that. I got in the elevator and hit the button for the ground floor. But before the doors closed, I heard the voice again, this time right behind me. It said clear as day, "You forgot me." The lights in the elevator went out, pitch black. My heart was pounding as I fumbled for the flashlight. When it came on, I saw a reflection in the elevator's stainless steel wall, a woman standing behind me. She was pale, drenched, like she'd just come out of a lake. Her hospital gown clung to her skin, and her hair hung over her face. I spun around, but no one was there. The doors opened suddenly, and I bolted out, running down the hall until I reached the nurses' station. 2 nurses looked up, startled, and I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost because one of them asked if I was okay. All I could manage to say was, "There's someone down there." They glanced at each other and said quietly, "You must have met her." Apparently, the story was hospital legend. Years ago, maybe 15 or 20, a patient went missing during a flood evacuation. They found her body days later, drowned in the basement level after the storm waters rose. Her name was Eliza Martin. When the nurse said the name, my blood ran cold. Eliza. Eli. That's what I'd been hearing all night, not someone calling me. Someone calling for help. I told myself I'd never go down there again. But a few months later, another power outage forced me back. This time, I brought a coworker with me. Nothing happened, at least not to me. But as we were leaving, my coworker stopped in the hallway and whispered, "Did you hear that?" I asked what he meant. He said he thought he heard a woman crying. When I told him we needed to go, he looked back toward the generator room. There, in the flickering light, I could see the faint outline of a wet handprint on the door, like someone had pressed against it from the inside. I quit that job at the end of summer, but sometimes when it rains, I still think about that voice calling my name in the dark. And every time I drive past Maplewood, I can't help but wonder if she's still down there, waiting for someone to answer her. I used to work for a commercial cleaning company that handled big corporate buildings. Most of them were empty by the time our team showed up, which made things easier. We usually started around 9 p.m. and finished before sunrise. The building that still makes my stomach twist was an insurance headquarters downtown, 6 floors of glass, and marble spotless desks, automatic lights, the kind of place that looked too clean to be real. I was assigned to the 5th floor, which meant I worked alone most nights. Everyone else was scattered across other floors, and I actually liked it that way at first. I'd put in my earbuds, listen to music, and just get through the night. It was peaceful, at least in the beginning. The 5th floor was an open-concept layout with rows of cubicles, glass conference rooms, and one long hallway that ended with a locked office no one ever entered. The door had a nameplate that had been scratched off, and the blinds were always drawn. My coworker Maria told me that floor used to belong to upper management, but there had been a small fire a few years back. After that, most executives moved to a different floor, and the office at the end of the hall was sealed off. I didn't think much of it until the footprints started appearing. Every night after mopping, I'd return to find a trail of wet footprints leading from that locked office straight toward where I'd been working. They weren't big, maybe the size of a woman's feet, and they were always bare. I thought maybe it was condensation or a leak, but the floor was always perfectly dry otherwise. Still, I'd mop them up, shake it off, and tell myself I was imagining things. But the footprints kept coming back. One night I decided to test it. I finished early, turned off half the automatic lights, and waited near the janitor's closet with my phone camera ready. The building was so quiet that I could hear my own breathing. After about 10 minutes, I saw movement in the reflection of the glass wall, a faint ripple. Then, out of nowhere, a single wet footprint appeared in the middle of the hallway. Then another. They were forming one by one, like invisible steps moving slowly toward me. I froze. I couldn't even breathe. When they got close, within maybe 10 feet, I heard it. A soft exhale right next to my ear, followed by a whisper that said, "Don't clean that room." I spun around but saw nothing. When I looked back, the footprints had stopped. I left the mop and bucket right there and didn't touch that part of the floor for the rest of the night. The next day, I told Maria what happened. Her face went pale, and she told me the story of the woman who used to work in that office. Her name was Ms. Hargrove, one of the department heads. The fire had started late at night when she was the only one still in her office. A ceiling beam collapsed near the door, trapping her inside. She didn't burn, though. The smoke got to her before the flames did. They sealed her office after the cleanup because people said they still smelled smoke in there even years later. After hearing that, I couldn't stop thinking about the voice that told me not to clean it. A few weeks later, the company sent an inspector to check the ventilation and maintenance systems. I was told to guide him around, since I knew where all the access hatches were. When we reached the 5th floor, he asked about a vent behind the sealed office. We opened the small panel together, and inside was a dusty old duct that hadn't been touched in forever. Or at least, that's what I thought, until I noticed a faint handprint on the metal, small and dark like soot. The inspector didn't even see it, but I knew what it meant. I transferred to another building after that. To this day, I still have the short video I recorded that night. It's grainy, but you can clearly see the wet footprints forming one after another on the floor. And for just a second, right before the clip ends, you can see a faint reflection of someone standing behind my cleaning cart. A woman, still silent, watching me mop. I deleted the video once, but somehow it reappeared a week later with the same file name and timestamp. I don't try to explain it anymore. I just know that wherever I work now, I never turn off all the lights, and I never clean near closed offices after midnight, because sometimes when I forget, I swear I can still hear her breathing behind me.